out of nowhere, or a thought that doesn't out of nowhere, or a thought that doesn't seem to be yours, but that of someone who is no longer here. Many say it's the grieving process, a trick of the mind to survive absence. But what if I told you that Jacobo Grinberg's science suggests something much deeper? What if that bond between you and your parents, or you and your children, wasn't just biological, but a physical entanglement in the very fabric of reality? The Synergic theory and the lattice. Welcome to a space where science meets the soul. Today we are going to reveal why, according to the Synergic theory, death has no power to break what the lattice has united. Imagine the universe is not a vacuum, but an infinite network of energy. The lattice. Each of us is a distortion in that network, a unique vibration. But when a father and son interact, especially during gestation and the first years of life, their neural fields not only communicate, they weave together, they become a single system. In the lab, Grinberg demonstrated transferred potential. If you stimulate one person's brain, the brain of their partner or family member reacts instantly, regardless of distance. This is the first thing we need to understand. You and your loved ones are quantumly entangled, energy that cannot be destroyed. Here is where most people go wrong when thinking about death. We believe that when the physical body stops, the connection shuts off. But physics tells us that energy cannot be destroyed. That distortion, that knot of loving consciousness you created with your mother or child, remains recorded in the lattice. Many of you have shared spine-chilling stories, tales of feeling a hand on your shoulder at the exact moment of a crisis, or hearing a warning voice that saved a life. Grinberg's science would validate that you're not crazy. You're perceiving the resonance of a neural field that, although no longer has a visible biological support, continues to vibrate in your same frequency. Love is coherence. How is this possible? Because love, in synergic terms, is a state of total brain coherence. When you love someone, your brain waves sync with theirs. You create a bridge that transcends time and space. That's why, when they depart, the bridge doesn't fall. It simply becomes invisible to the eyes, but not to the heart or to the lattice. If today you feel that emptiness, remember this. Death is just a phase shift. Your neural field still holds a trace of the one who gave you life or of the one to whom you gave it. It's not just a memory, it's a physical, real, and eternal connection. Next time you feel that strange vibration, don't ignore it. It's the lattice reminding you that no one truly leaves as long as the entanglement remains. Is it possible that the most advanced science of the 20th century has inadvertently discovered the proof of immortality? The transferred potential experiment Grinberg demonstrated in the lab. Two people meditated together, synced, and were then separated into isolated chambers. When one person's brain was stimulated with light flashes, the brain of the other person, in darkness and silence, reacted exactly the same. He called this transferred potential. If this bond exists in life, why would it disappear when one of them no longer has a physical body? Consciousness does not depend on the body to exist in the lattice. The body is just the radio receiver. If the radio breaks, the signal continues broadcasting. That's why you still feel that energy. It's not a memory, it's the signal your brain, still quantumly entangled, keeps receiving from the fabric of reality. The language of resonance. Many of you have shared stories about how, when a mother passes, the world no longer feels the same, and you feel their presence through sense or synchronicities. From Greinberg's perspective, This is synergic resonance. Your brain seeks the frequency of that person, and at times the lattice responds. It's not magic, it's the physics of consciousness. Your neural field is calling the distortion that person left in the field. How do we hear the lattice? It's possible that your brain has a secret antenna to tune into those who are no longer here. Grinberg spoke of brain coherence. Imagine your brain as a radio. If there is too much static, stress, mental noise, disbelief, you won't be able to tune into the frequency. Science tells us that the pineal gland and our temporal lobes act as transducers. When you enter deep meditation or that state of drowsiness just before waking up, your coherence increases. It's in that silence where the distortion left by your mother or child in the lattice becomes perceptible. It's not a hallucination. It's your biological antenna tuning into a signal that never stopped broadcasting. The geometry of love, entanglement and distance. Why is the bond stronger with some people? In synergic theory, the strength of the union depends on the amount of shared information. When you share DNA or when your neural fields have vibrated together for decades, the structure of the lattice is permanently modified. Grinberg suggested that love is a geometry of high coherence. The more love there was, the denser the entanglement. That's why even if the person is in another plane, that geometric imprint in space-time is so strong that it can manifest in your physical reality as a synchronicity. That book that falls, that song that plays just when you were thinking of them. It's the quantum field responding to your consciousness need to close the circle. The memory of the lattice, where the self never dies. What if your memories weren't stored in your brain, but in the space around you? For Jacobo Grinberg, the brain wasn't a filing cabinet, but a processor. True memory resides in the lattice. When you die, the structure of information you formed, your loves, your fears, has no reason to be erased. It's like a radio wave that keeps traveling through space even when the transmitter is off. This explains why the connection can feel so alive. You're not remembering a dead fact. You're interacting with a structure of information that is still present. When you think about them with emotional intensity, you create a synergic resonance, and the information flows again. That's why many people report receiving advice in dreams. It's the lattice downloading information into a brain that, while asleep, has lowered its rational guard. Jacobo's leap, a transition to pure lattice? It's impossible to talk about quantum bonds without mentioning the mystery surrounding Jacobo himself. His disappearance in 1994 remains the greatest enigma of Mexican science. But from the logic of his own theory, what really happened? Some theorists suggest that Jacobo didn't disappear. He achieved such a high level of coherence that his consciousness no longer needed the biological receptor. If Jacobo merged with the lattice, his disappearance would be proof that consciousness can exist as pure information. This idea is the same that sustains the comfort of many of you. The feeling that your loved ones haven't truly left, but have become part of the very fabric of reality. The collapse of the love wave function. Can your observation and intention bring someone's essence back? In quantum physics, the observer affects the observed. If we apply this to the synergic theory, your intention to connect with someone who is no longer here has a physical effect on the lattice. Love acts as the strongest quantum glue that exists. When you focus on the bond with a loved one, you're forcing a collapse of the wave function in the quantum field. You're making it so that, out of all the possibilities in the lattice, That person's presence manifests in your reality, not necessarily as a physical body, but as a high coherence distortion. This explains impossible synchronicities. Many of you have commented on how, after asking for a sign, an exact response appears in the physical world. From Grinberg's perspective, this isn't coincidence. It's the interaction between your neural field and the quantum memory of who you love, mediated by the structure of the lattice. The subjective space-time. Did you know that for the lattice, yesterday and today are the same thing? In our daily life, we perceive time as a straight line. We are born, we live, and we lose those we love. But Jacobo Grinberg suggested that time is a construction of our brain when processing information from the lattice. At the highest levels of brain coherence, time disappears. When you feel a deep connection with someone who is no longer physically here, you're accessing a state where time has no power. For the lattice, that person's energetic distortion still exists in the eternal present. That's why a memory can feel so real that your body reacts physically. Your heart races or you feel deep peace. You're not looking at the past. You're tuning into a frequency that exists right now in a dimension your physical senses can't usually see. Love is literally a bridge that shortens the distance between dimensions of time. Synchronicity as quantum language. Do you think that song or that number that keeps appearing is a coincidence? Physics says otherwise. If the connection persists through the lattice, how does it communicate with us? Grinberg suggested that external reality is a mirror of our internal structure. When your neural field is intensely focused on the essence of a loved one, the lattice collapses into events that resonate with that frequency. This is what we call synchronicity. It's not that your loved one is moving objects physically, but the interaction between your consciousness and the imprint they left in the quantum field creates a probabilistic anomaly. The book that falls, the song that plays just when you were thinking of them, or the appearance of a symbolic animal. They are coded messages in the structure of reality. Many of you have shared experiences where these signals have avoided tragedies or provided comfort that logic cannot explain. The invisible dialogue. What if the voice you hear inside you isn't your own mind, but a quantum transmission? Jacobo Grinberg didn't see telepathy as a superpower, but as an intrinsic property of the lattice. In his famous experiments, he demonstrated that two synchronized brains act as one system. But what happens when one of those brains no longer exists biologically? From the synergic perspective, telepathy isn't a message sent from point A to point B, but a phenomenon of resonance. Your loved one no longer has vocal cords, but their imprint in the lattice still holds a specific structure of information, their words, their tone, their advice. When you enter a state of high coherence through meditation or deep love, your brain resonates with that information. You're not imagining their voice, you're decoding a signal that already exists in the quantum field. It's a dialogue that transcends the body because the mind at its core was never confined to the skull. The unity of consciousness. Why no one truly dies. Death is the greatest illusion of human perception. In the lattice, we are eternal. Grinberg said that individuality is the result of a brain filter. We believe we are separate islands because our senses deceive us. However, at the deepest level of reality, we are all one network. When someone close passes, the impact on the network is total. It's not that a light goes out, It's that the light changes frequency to illuminate the field in a different way. Many of you have commented on how, when your mother dies, the world no longer feels the same, and you feel an expansion of your own consciousness after the loss. This happens because when the physical barrier is broken, the union becomes purely energetic. You become the guardian of their vibration. Their self now lives through your neural field. In the lattice, separation is physically impossible. Therefore, death is simply a transition from a local connection to a universal connection. The future, technology for the lattice. Are we on the brink of creating a quantum phone to speak with the other side? Jacobo Grinberg was not only a theorist, but a technological visionary. He believed that if we could measure brain coherence, we could create interfaces that interacted directly with the lattice. Imagine a future where, instead of a screen, we use our own brain coherence to tune into information stations in the lattice. It wouldn't be necromancy, but applied physics. If the imprint of our loved ones is a permanent structure of information, tomorrow's technology could help us decode those signals clearly. Until that day comes, our own mind remains the most advanced instrument that exists. Many of you are already experiencing this biological technology through your dreams and meditations, proving that the communication channel was never closed. It was simply waiting for us to learn how to use our own antenna. Conclusion: the eternal synergy. The end of the journey is not death, but the awakening from the illusion of separation. Jacobo Grinberg's legacy invites us to see the world not as isolated objects, but as a continuous stream of consciousness. By understanding synergy, mourning ceases to be a farewell and becomes an integration. You carry your mother, your father, your child in every heartbeat because your heart and theirs are essentially the same distortion in the infinite fabric of God. The world changes when someone leaves, but our ability to love and connect with the invisible becomes our greatest strength.